Turning to some big sports news now, UW-Madison has confirmed Shawn Eichorst will be the next director of athletics. Sports director Mike Jocks joins us live in studio with more details on that announcement. Jocko.
Well, that didn't take long, right, Mackenzie? Now yesterday we reported the University of Wisconsin was targeting Shawn Eichorst as the next director of athletics. Well, today, University of Wisconsin announced they have hired Eichorst as their next AD. Eichorst fits in what UW was looking for, right? He was a Lone Rock native from Wisconsin and served as the deputy director of athletics under Barry Alvarez for 5 years. His most recent job, the deputy athletic director and chief operating officer for football at the University of Texas at Austin. The only blemish on his resume, you ask? Well, I'll tell you, Eichorst previously served as the athletic director at the University of Nebraska and then was later fired from the University of Nebraska. He was also the athletic director at Miami, as well as UW-Whitewater, his alma mater, where he was an All-American defensive back. This dude knows football, which will certainly help. We'll talk more about that coming up tonight at 6. Now, the university tells me that they will formally introduce Eichorst hopefully next week. We'll have more on the hiring coming up tonight at 6. For now, live in the studio, Mike Jocks, WMTV 15 Sports.